Hi guys, my name is Kat and you're watching Plot and Plans. Today we are doing the third episode of Writing on Wednesday, and we're going to be talking about why writers should be readers, the importance of genre, and the importance of understanding why people care about the promises that you make readers in your books. There's a lot to go here, so let's get this started. The first thing we need to talk about is why writers need to be readers. And the reason that's so important is because you should be writing what you love. And you're not going to know what you love, why you love it, and how it works unless you're actively reading it. By reading in your genre, you're going to be able to understand how it works and what unique characteristics it has, which is absolutely essential if you're going to be able to actually write a story in it and understand how that story works and be able to tell the story properly, fix mistakes, and in general improve your craft. On top of reading stuff that's in your genre and that is about character types and story types that you already like, you should also be expanding your interests as a reader, because the more different types of stories that you read, wider the variety of authors, and the wider the set of mediums that you read within, the more that you're going to understand how writing and storytelling and different genres work in general, which can also be very valuable. Because sometimes when you're in a major genre, you end up writing in a subgenre, and different techniques and ideas from different types of stories can be blended together to create something truly fresh and original. So now that we have covered the fact that writers should be readers, let's talk about why understanding genre and understanding the value of story promises is important to a new writer. When we sit down to write a story, we need to really think about what kind of story we're going to tell and who is going to read that story. If the audience is going to be just you and you aren't interested in publication, then go nuts. Do what you want to do. Be free. And I'm not saying that you can't do that if you're aiming for publication as well. But generally speaking, if you are aiming for publication, you do need to think about aspects of this from a business perspective, which means you have to understand what the readers that you are writing for are looking for. Or, on the other hand, you could be looking at what it is that you can bring to an already existing genre or subgenre that you feel is missing from that genre or subgenre. You need to think about what's going to make you different and why people are going to want to read your books. When we talk about this and think about this, we get to a discussion of what kinds of rules and expectations exist within certain genres, and then we get to how those are carried out and what ways we can make them unique or what ways could potentially risk the quality of what we're doing. So the next thing we need to talk about is, what is genre? Well, first off, genre is not category. Category is stuff like kidlit or young adult or new adult or adult. Those are categories. Categories tell you the general, assumed age and assumed level of readership that something is going to have. A genre, on the other hand, tells us what kind of story that we are going to get. Whereas when we're discussing category, you might know, for example, that if you pick up a piece of kidlit, you're not going to get a sex scene. When it comes to genre, what we're dealing with is, in a romance novel, you need to have either a happily ever after or a happy for now ending. A fantasy story is going to have some form of a magical or otherworldly element that fits into different mythological and fairy tale tropes generally. Science fiction is going to have science elements, space exploration, or other issues like that. It's going to be based on actual traceable things or on theories, as opposed to on magic that the author generates through sheer imagination. Horror is going to generally scare you. Sometimes it's going to be bloody and gory, or sometimes it's going to fuck with your mind and be very psychological. You get the idea. So the thing you need to understand is, first off, what key genre you're writing in and what the rules of that genre are. If you guys are interested in going into more genres in detail, I'd be more than happy to go through some of them that I'm interested in, or I'd be interested in hosting others if they'd like to talk about their genre. That'd be cool too. But we've got the gist of why genre matters. And now we're going to get to the heart of what I want to talk about, which is the importance of the story promise. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because, have you seen Game of Thrones Season 8? They really messed that shit up. And I was sitting there and I was watching it, and then I was listening to tons of commentary on it. And I'm like, this is crucial, and this could have all been avoided. And it's just really unfortunate. And the best way that I can explain to you the key problem with what happened with Season 8 of Game of Thrones is that the people who were writing it, D&D or whatever their actual names are, they used the idea of subverting expectations. And when they did that, what they didn't realize for whatever reason is that doing that at the end of a series isn't going to work the same way as doing that at an interval part of a series or a book or anything like that. And the best way that I can explain this to you is to contrast what happens with Jon Snow / Arya and the killing of the Night King versus what happens with the death of Ned Stark. So, quick heads up, there are going to be spoilers for Game of Thrones here. If you are interested in watching Game of Thrones and you do not know about these things and you do not want them spoiled, you might want to go and watch the series before checking this out. If you have either already watched it or if you do not care about spoilers, then please feel free to proceed. So first up, let's talk about what happened with Ned Stark and why what George R.R. Martin did actually worked. There are several reasons for this. So that we understand we're all on the same page, at the end of the first book of A Song of Ice and Fire, Ned Stark dies. He is beheaded. He tries to give a speech and stuff to try and prevent his death, but the king, Joffrey, ends up ordering his execution. Now, the reason that Ned Stark's death works, there are several key reasons. One, the character's arc, what was going to happen to him, his purpose for being on the page, was properly fulfilled. It wasn't fulfilled in the way that the reader expects it to be fulfilled, but it was fulfilled in such a way that when you go back and look at it, you can understand that he actually went through a logical arc, and what happened is that it ended in a way different than the reader expected, but which can be traced, led to, and executed by a reader who goes back and reads the story again. The second thing about Ned Stark's death is that, despite the fact that it is sad, it ultimately honors Ned Stark's character. Ned Stark dies because he actually gives up his principles. Now, he probably would have died anyway. That's regardless. But I mean, the part of his death and its symbolism is that he actually dies because of that. And I mean, he does it for good reasons. He's trying to protect his daughters and everything. That's understandable. But I found that very interesting. The other really key thing about Ned Stark's death is that because Ned Stark's aspect of the story is done, and because at that stage of its development, Game of Thrones still has so many unique and interesting characters, and since Game of Thrones is a series where we follow multiple points of view, losing a viewpoint character, while shocking because we're not used to that in fiction, generally speaking, isn't something that breaks the game. Everything, while it has been subverted, still can fit within the rules of good storytelling. And that is why Ned Stark works. Why does the Jon Snow and Arya situation not work? Well, there are prophecies and backstory and a character dying and coming back from the dead and a multitude of other things that happen to Jon Snow throughout the series leading up to season 8. And everybody expected that when they got to the point where the Night King was going to be killed, that it was going to be Jon Snow that killed him. Jon Snow's arc has been from the beginning that he joined the Watchers and that he was working toward dealing with the White Walkers. So that is how his character was set up. Arya had her own arc. Arya went to Braavos. Arya had a list of people that she wanted to kill and that she wanted revenge on. That was her thing. She had no actual connection to the White Walker storyline or to the Night King. And yet, when we get to the point where the Night King is being dealt with and where he is defeated, we do not see an epic battle between him and Jon Snow. We do not learn anything about the Night King's actual background. We do not actually get to see him portrayed as any level of value as a character, which also adds to it and makes his death hollow. But most egregiously, we see Arya jump out of the shadows like she is like just part of the like materialization of the earth, and she kills him, which makes no sense because there was absolutely nothing done to set her character up to actually be able to do that. And there are lots of people who are upset about the fact that that happened. There are a lot of angry Game of Thrones fans. So, as an author, how can you prevent making your readers feel angry like those Game of Thrones fans? Because you don't want that kind of recognition. There are certain types of controversy that can maybe, sorta, kinda, on a good day work for you. This is not one you want. So, okay. The first key difference between the situation with Ned Stark and with Jon Snow is that Ned Stark's situation happened at the end of the first book in the series, whereas the Jon Snow and Daenerys situation happened at the end of the series. Now, I realize it's the TV series, it's not the book series. We'll have to see what George R.R. Martin actually does with it. That's totally fine. But for the purposes of discussing this with a completed narrative, at least, with regard to the TV series, that was the ending, and that was the way they decided to tie things up. And what it actually shows, to me at least, is that the writers who were working on this were getting bored. And that can be another danger in and of itself, especially if you're writing a series. I'm going to do a video in detail on writing series, but I'll say it here and now. If you're going to write a series, please write like a plan on what you're going to do for your books, so you kind of have a pathway in case you need a way out. Because the last thing you want to do is set yourself up to write 50 books and burn out on book 12 or something. It's better to have like connecting series or connecting arcs to an overall series, so that way if you have that problem you can get out. But I'm getting off topic here. The other thing, and this goes back to what I was saying about genre, that you can actually do to ensure that you're not going to piss off your readers, is you can make sure you understand what the expected and core promises of your genre are, so that you understand what the rules are when you're writing, and that you're breaking rules if you are choosing to break them. Anyway, I think that's all I've really got on this topic for today, at least. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I'd love to help you out. And if you're enjoying these videos on how to write fiction, please feel free to click the like button or subscribe or hit the notification bell so that you can see them when they come up. I do my best to bring them out on Wednesdays. I'm still getting used to this, so we'll see what happens. If all goes according to plan, next week's video is going to be about how to write an outline and actually utilize it for getting through Camp NaNoWriMo, because I know that's coming up. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!